Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel, and on this episode we're gonna go ahead and adjust the front end on the F350. I'm gonna adjust the track bar, the pan bar that's on the front, that centers the axle. We're gonna get that centered, and then I'm gonna adjust the steering wheel to get that centered as well. And I actually did take the truck to alignment, but they couldn't align the truck because there's a big problem on the rear end, and we're gonna talk about it right now. And before we talk about the rear end situation, let me show you what we're going to do on the front of the truck. In my case, it's actually pushing out the passenger side just a little bit because I installed a new track bar. As you can tell on this side, it actually sits in more. When I did that 2.5 inch leveling kit, and the stock one was just fine. I didn't need this one on the truck. So even though it's tightened pretty much all the way, it's still pushing out. And I don't know, I can still try to tighten it some more to see if it can pull this side in more and push out the driver's side, because it's sitting, maybe I want to say maybe there's a 1 inch difference, roughly 1 inch difference. But yeah, if I can't tighten this in more, I'm gonna take it off, do a little bit of a modification to it in order to tighten it a little more to push this side out. Now let's talk about the rear end situation. When I got the truck was hit in this wheel right here with something really sharp, really pointing, hitting this way at, seemed like a pretty high speed, because it ripped off the rear leaf springs, and I replaced both of the leaf springs on both sides, replaced the wheel, got a new tire, and then after a certain amount of time I realized that I was eating the tires. So I replaced these tires with new ones, and these I didn't replace yet because they still had some life on them. And now, as you can tell, this one is worn out pretty bad. And same thing on the passenger side, I replaced this tire, and then this one is worn out pretty bad as well. The rear end is slightly bowed. The driver's side is bent in because I did the measurements, and it's a little bit off, and that's why they couldn't do the alignment, because they said the rear end is not straight, it's a little bit off, so there's no point of aligning anything else if the rear end is not sitting straight. And I also went to a shop, and because it's a didnt 80 rear end, they said it's too strong and you need to go to a semi-truck shop, and those guys charge an arm and a leg to fix something like that. So if you guys know of anybody that has a didnt 80 dually rear end, regular dually, not flatbed dually, has to, because the flatbed dualies are narrower, and the gears I'm looking for 373, preferably limited slip. So if you guys know of anybody, let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram, FixitNick. I would love to buy a assembled rear end with limited slip, 373 gears. Depending on the price, if it's just the housing, I guess that's fine. I guess I can swap it all over to the new housing. So basically, one of my tubes is slightly bent on the driver's side forward about 1/4 of an inch or so, and that affects the tires quite a bit, and that eats the tires quite a bit too. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the 2 rear tires on the back, so that way I have all 4 new tires on the back, and hopefully find a rear end soon so I can get that fixed and not have any more tire eating issues. That's the problem with the rear end. It drives fine, there's no issue, it's just a little bent to the tube that can't really be fixed. Otherwise it's going to cost an arm and a leg, and it's worth it just to replace the whole rear end and not try to fix it. Alright, so let's go ahead and align the front axle, center it, center the steering wheel, and get that taken care of. Alright guys, so I tightened the track bar all the way as far as it can go in order to pull this driver's side out this way in order to try to center the axle. So let's see what we got. I put some tape right here and I'm gonna measure off I wanted to do a little string hanger, gravity feed, all that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and use actual frame hole right here, because there's one on the passenger side as well that's the same, and it's gonna be more accurate, because if the ground is a little bit uneven, the string is not gonna be as straight. So this is a lot better, and it's gonna give me a more accurate measurement. All right, so I'm gonna go off of that hole right here, and I'm gonna go to the end of the tape, and we are at actually, yeah, let's go 17.58 to the rubber. Okay, 17.58 to the rubber. And then let's go on the passenger side. Same hole right here in the frame. And we are at, okay, so it's 17.75 to the rubber. And the driver's side is 17.58 to the rubber. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? So yeah, about 1/8 of a difference. Let's look at the steering wheel real quick. So we got about 1/8. We moved over about 3/4, I believe, because it was about 3/4 to 1 inch over. So the steering wheel was like this. If we can get a little bit more over to the driver's side, it's going to be more like this. Okay, well, let's do that. I'm gonna remove the track bar, and I'm gonna trim it a little bit so I can have more space to tighten this track bar. When I bought this track bar, it said it's for 2.5 inch leveling kit to 4 inch lift, but apparently it's more like probably 5-6 inch lift to 8 inch lift. So because it does have a lot of adjustability, so let's just consider it 5 to 8 inch lift track bar. All right, and I think we got it centered. So we got 17.58 to the rubber, and then this one we got 17, just one line under 5/8. So it's actually moved out this way about 1/16, maybe 1/8, 1/16. I think probably 1/16, because I'd rather it stick out a little bit more this way than a little bit more that way. Because now my steering wheel is pretty much almost where it was. Before it was about right here, and now it's right there. So it will be a lot easier to straighten it out from this point than from, you know, that point. All right, so from frame rail to frame rail, it's centered. All right, let's go ahead and adjust the steering wheel. So the truck is pretty much done. The steering is centered, and it's pretty simple to center the steering wheel. You got this sleeve right here, and you got 2 clamps, and you got 2 bolts. So just loosen the 2 bolts, and I used the pipe wrench to move it just a little bit, but then I was able to adjust it by hand. So that's the benefits of having, I guess, a California car, California truck. Things are not rusted together. And then the brake line and the ABS line are pretty much mounted in the exact same area where it was, because I did actually, when I mounted in here, I was thinking of having different holes drilled or whatever, but I actually mounted that, and it was a little tight. But then I ended up bending the bracket about 50-60 degrees down, and then now I have so much room to play with. I don't have to re-drill new holes. And then another thing you can do is bend this brake line just a little bit to give you a little more play if you need to, if you go into like a higher lift or whatever. But I'm not going to be jumping any Baja jumps, so that would be perfect. And then same thing on the driver's side. I bent the bracket down, and that has enough play behind the shock support here, because metal brake lines, they're pretty flexible, so you can bend them, adjust them if you need to. They're not going to break unless you obviously bend them, you know, 90 degrees, but they always have a lot of play in them, so you can always adjust them how you need to. And then I got plenty of room here. Nothing's gonna happen. Everything's gonna be perfect. So yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't have to drill new holes and figure out new mounting locations, but that's done. So now let's check out the steering wheel. My tire might not be perfectly straight right now, but I basically just pretended that the tires are straight, and much better than being all upside down, sideways angled. All right, so now I got to get my stuff together and go to work. So let's go for a little drive. so far I like it. So far it's good. The ride quality is a little bit stiffer with the 4-inch lift on the front because I did the leaves instead of the spacers. So that made a little bit of a stiffer ride because the stock front suspension of these is really soft. So, but I'm hoping with the 37s or 35s, whatever I decide to go with, it's gonna be a bit softer because I don't want to go like 20-inch or 22-inch wheels. I want to go maybe 18 on 37s, and I think that's gonna be pretty good. So yeah, for now I'm not gonna worry about MPGs or any performance testing. I do want to replace those 2 back tires with the new ones just in case, just to be on the safe side. So I'll call the shop and tell them to order the 2 tires, then I'll go get them changed. And then once that's done, I'm gonna do MPG testing, and then I'm gonna do performance testing. And right now I'm just driving to work just to make sure everything is 100%. I mean, I did drive it to the dump the other day, and everything was fine. But I didn't really drive on the freeway that long for 30 minutes. 30 minutes to work, 30 minutes back. So I just want to make sure that everything's good, everything's running well, no engine codes, no nothing, no oil leaks. And then we're gonna get to MPG testing, performance testing, the ones I did 10 to 60 instead of 0 to 60, because with the manual transmission, it's more consistent if you go from 10 to 60 because of the whole shifting makes a huge difference in the beginning. So 10 to 60, 30 to 70, and then I'm gonna do 50 to 70 in 5th, and then in 6th gear, and we're gonna compare the results to see if anything's faster, better, whatever. I'm thinking the MPGs might go down a little bit because when you lift the truck, you get more airflow underneath the truck, so it's not as aerodynamic as if it's slower. We'll see. So I'm expecting it to be maybe the same, if not lower MPGs. But eventually a tuner will, fix that a little bit. So that's gonna bump it up 3, 4, 5 MPGs. So that's gonna be pretty good as well. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. The steering wheel still is a little bit off because obviously I think my wheels were not straight on the driveway, but it's a lot better than sitting this way. So guys, thanks for watching. If you're new, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.